Today, we're going to be breaking down some different moves that will expose any DB. So this first move here, wide receivers can use anytime they're taking an outside release, whether they are running like an out route, whether they're running a comeback route, a fade route, whatever the case may be. Now, this wide receiver is going to be running a comeback route. The move we're going to be discussing is a hesitation skip. So let's play this full speed, and then we'll break down how you can use the move. So he gets his jab inside, and he does a little skip at the beginning of the route to force that DB to have to overcommit when he is selling vertical leading into his comeback route, right? Because the goal, guys, if we have inside shade press when we have to run a comeback route, would be to try to get this DB to honor his leverage to the inside, right? He's lined up inside shade press. The middle of his body is even with my front foot. That's how we know that he's inside shade. So he's trying to stop any type of inside breaking route and force everything to the outside. So if I have to run a comeback route, generally what I want to do is I want to get that DB to hold his leverage inside, push up vertical, and while I'm pushing up vertical, let's say the comeback break is at like 12, 15 yards. I want that DB to have his hips and his shoulders facing the opposite end zone, aka opening the gate. So what we have to do is we have to be able to sell vertical. Like at this specific position right here, we have to make that DB think that we are running a fade. And how we do that is with my speed, my stride, and my body language. Everything about that needs to sell fade. Now, this hesitation skip that we are focusing on right now is a great way to get this DB to overreact and overcommit when I get back to my selling vertical position by simply changing tempo. So this wide receiver gives a jab inside, takes a step with his right foot, and then he essentially takes a double step with his left foot. That's how you guys want to think of a hesitation skip. You take two steps with the same foot. So he jabs inside with the left foot, steps with the right foot, then he goes left, left, then takes off. And that little skip right there is a change in speed, you guys. That change in speed could get that DB to hesitate, maybe expect some type of inside breaking route. You see how he starts to tend to open up to the inside. And then when we accelerate, he's like, oh crap, I don't want to get beat over the top because we have that change in speed. So starting out like going 0 speed and then bursting up to 100 will force more of a reaction out of this DB, get his hips to commit, and then we get separation on that comeback route. So a hesitation skip is a great move that all wide receivers can use. So if you want to think of it like from a steps perspective, I would think of it like, okay, I'm going to jab with my left foot, I step with my right, left, left, then accelerate. So jab left, step right, left, left, then accelerate up into the route. Let's play it full speed. I'm going to play it twice so you guys can see it. So he jabs, left, left, burst up, get that DB to overreact, and then he's in and out on this comeback route. Let's show this thing again. So he comes off the ball, jab left, right, left, left, and then accelerate up into the break. So that hesitation skip is a great way to get that DB to overcommit and get him to stop his feet. Now, before we get into the second move here, you guys, if you are a wide receiver and you would like a daily training schedule to follow in the offseason, check out that very first link in the description below for our elite wide receiver training package. What you'll get access to is 8 weeks of daily on-field route running workouts and daily gym workouts that wide receivers specifically should be doing. So we break it down like on Monday you're doing this, Tuesday you're doing that. We give you the exact sets and reps to follow, and we break down examples, whether it's a photo example of a gym exercise, but for all the on-field drills, we give video examples. So guys, if you want a full workout schedule that you guys can follow, check out that very first link in the description below for our elite wide receiver training package. Let's get back to this video. So now, this next move we're going to be discussing here is something called a split jab release, or like a split, I guess you could say like hip sway release in a sense. So let's watch what this wide receiver does. So I think we're all familiar with a split release, right? If you're not, I'm going to break it down a little bit, but a split jab release is just a great way to get some separation from this DB. So a split release, you guys, is exactly how it sounds. It's a great way to kind of freeze the DB, but also to be able to react off of a DB, right? So a split release, this wide receiver has his left foot up, right? So in this case, his left foot is going to step out, and his right foot, which is his back foot, is going to step straight up. But both feet are going to make contact with the grass at the exact same time. So you see how right, left. So his right foot hits. I think his right foot could move up a little bit more. Anytime that you guys are like on a specific yard line, you almost want to use the yard line as a spot where your feet should hit. Left foot goes out, right foot goes up. If you're too quick with this right foot and it lands, sometimes that can throw off the, like, I guess you could say hesitation element of this split release, but you want both feet to stay like on a straight line in a sense, but both feet make contact with the ground at the exact same time. Now, when we do this split release, right, the reason why we do it is because it's a great way to react off of a DB, especially on a route where I could release to the inside or we could release to the outside. And a fade route is one of those routes as long as it's not an MOR. For those of you that don't know what an MOR is, that means a mandatory outside release, right? So we come to balance. This is called coming to balance when both feet hit the ground at the same time. It's a way to freeze the DB, but also react off of him. And it's a split-second reaction. If this DB jumps to the outside, okay, cool, because both feet are in the grass at the same time, I could push off this outside foot, take this inside release, I'm good. He shades to the inside or stays at his leverage, I could just push off of this inside foot and take the outside release. I could do either or because I came to balance. Now, if that DB just sits and I got to run a fade, I maybe want to try to give him something to get him to jump to the inside. And that's where this split jab release comes into play, or split hip sway release. So you see how when he splits, watch his upper half. You see how his hips, you see how his shoulders start to turn, guys. This is something that I work a lot with my receivers. Like, I'll have them hold like a PVC pipe in their hands, and we'll do a split release, and I have them turn that PVC pipe either to this sideline or to this sideline to work on their upper body being separate from their feet and separate from their lower body. Because the DB in press coverage, you guys, what is he watching? He's going to be reading my hips. So if he sees my hips start to move in a direction, that's more likely to get him to at least just step in that direction. And that extra step right there is enough for me to get separation, especially if I'm accelerating out of the release. So a split sway, split jab, however you want to think of it, is essentially where we split, both feet hit the ground at the same time, but the upper half turns in the direction I am trying to sell, because that's what the DB is ultimately watching. Now, if he wants to take an inside release here, because this DB's in head-up press, he doesn't have a leverage. Remember the last example, that DB had a leverage to the inside. He was shaded to the inside. This guy's right in front of our face. So if he's right in front of my face, okay, if I want to take an inside release, I could hit that split, and now my hips and my shoulders could sway in this direction to maybe get him to jump that way so I could release inside. And because both feet are hitting the ground at the same time, I can do that. So let's play this again, full speed one more time. Great example of that split jab release right there to get separation on this fade. Then obviously, hell of a catch that he makes over the top. Okay, so now this next move here is going to be from, I believe this was the like Dallas, Texas, like rivals, wide receiver versus DB one-on-ones. Good clips, good film for you guys to study too. If you're looking for film to ultimately watch and study how wide receivers run routes, how DBs make plays, like different routes that you could work, I highly recommend just going to like rivals.com, like their YouTube channel, Rivals, and they have tons of videos there, wide receiver versus DB film. It's great for you guys to learn, right? So this is going to be an example of using a move called a slip. Right? So a slip is, like, to some guys that may seem like a simple move, but a lot of guys don't necessarily know when to use it, and a lot of guys force it and use it in the wrong situation. So this wide receiver is running a post route, and he has a DB who's lined up inside shade press. Now, any good wide receiver understands that if I have inside shade press and I have to run an inside breaking route, especially being on the top of the numbers, chances are in a real play, if we're running this post, we're probably going to have my slot receiver running a post or running a dig or maybe running a curl. So my post route from the outside can't end up way across the field on the opposite hash, because that's poor spacing on a play. I could have a linebacker, a safety guard both routes. So we need to be able to keep spacing. We want to be able to stay in a straight line, I guess you could say, all the way up to the break point, right? So if this DB's inside shade, I'm probably not going to be able to force that inside release. I probably won't get the inside release. Not to say that I can't do it, because this slip move is how you can do it if a DB plays a certain way. This is a reactionary move. So what we would want to do pre-snap, this is my thought process. I want to attack him inside, try to get him to hold his leverage inside, then take an outside release, and my goal would be to stack him, so I give him a move and break to the post. Or if he's right on my hip, I could throw by and slip under him, but I maintain spacing, and I maintain timing with the quarterback. If we just force it, this DB is going to get hands, and when he gets hands and jams, that disrupts timing. So let me play the clip full speed, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So he gives a little jab inside, but this DB overcommits, and this receiver puts the brakes on and is still able to run this post. Now, that ball was thrown very, very late. I think that ball should be out right there, like on him right now. You have to understand in one-on-ones, you guys, a lot of times the quarterbacks don't necessarily know the receiver's timing, so they're very late on a lot of throws. If you're a quarterback for whatever reason listening to this, just know in one-on-ones, get the ball out early. They're not looking at your footwork. They're not looking at a whole lot other than timing, so get the most out of the drill and throw the ball on time, right? So let's talk about this slip move. So sometimes, guys, a DB is going to play it good. Sometimes he's going to do the right things. Sometimes maybe my release isn't as good. Maybe I'll stumble, whatever. Maybe I'm late on the snap count. But we got to be able to react. We can't just get screwed off and jammed all the way to the sideline, right? So he gives this move inside. This DB overcommits, and you see how he's running, and he's trying to cut off this angle, right? Overcommits to the outside release because he's trying to not let this receiver stack. Okay, fine. He just puts the brakes on, right? This DB overcommits. Okay, he puts the brakes on, slips back underneath them, and then goes. Guys, this slip move is great for wide receivers to be able able to execute when they get a DB who is over anxious on that outside release. It looks a lot like a diamond release. For those of you that are familiar with that, this looks a lot like a diamond release. But this, guys, you have to understand, has to be quick. You cannot waste time with this. You cannot get tripped up with this DB. And at the end of the day, guys, if you feel you could beat him with speed, beat him with speed. This is a reactionary move. You just have to be prepared to do this type of stuff. Don't anticipate this move because then you're just going to play slow. This is a reactionary move. If that DB overcommits, just puts the brakes on, slip under, and take that post route with that inside release.